大家好，我是凯莉。我学习中文大概已经有4年了。今天呢，我想跟大家分享我是怎么提高我的中文口语水平。好的，我们开始吧。I want to emphasize that I believe there is more to speaking than just speaking. Of course, one-on-one practice with native speakers is always going to have the biggest and fastest impact on your speaking ability. But I know some of my language learning friends don't have that option, they're shy, they're busy, and sometimes life can just get in the way. Over the years, I've cultivated a few daily habits to help keep myself engaged with oral Chinese. These habits don't take up a lot of time, so you can integrate them into your daily schedule without feeling stressed or overloaded. My first tip is to read along to the recordings that come with the texts in your textbooks. This means if you have a textbook with a recording, practice reading along to it until you can keep up with the reader's pace. Sorry, my phone is now on silent. Our Chinese professor Ma Lao Shi made us practice reading along to our textbooks with the recording, and he expected us to keep up with the recording and to sound like the people in the recordings. So this really upgraded my pronunciation very quickly, and this also allowed me to practice imitating the natural rhythm of Chinese speakers, which made me sound much more advanced even when I was just starting out. And sometimes walking to and from classes at uni, I even used to play the recordings on my cell phone and listen with earphones and try to mouth along to the recording or repeat phrases back. Tip number 2 is to memorize and practice saying short general responses. If you're still more or less a beginner and you don't know how to express very complicated concepts, here's a little trick that got me through my beginner speaking phase. When you're speaking with a native speaker but you're struggling to come up with a reply, that can be so frustrating. So I just practiced a bunch of general responses like 是吗？真的吗？太好了，不用了，没有啊，没关系，没事，没问题。
不用担心，真巧，好神奇，好可惜。好可怕，太厉害了！好的，我会的。你人真好啊，来不及了，还来得及呀。好的，好吧，好吗？让我想一想，我先走了。你说继续吧。不会吧？
太不可思议了。
And using them in context can really help the conversation flow better and can help you sound more fluent. This can help you build your confidence and accelerate your speaking level. My third tip is to replay and refine conversations in your head. This may not work for everyone, but after I talk to a native speaker in Chinese, I personally encourage myself to pay attention to that little voice in my head that says, oh, I should have said this, or I should have mentioned that. I often play back entire exchanges in my head and change what I would have said to refine my response in the future. Although it may sound stomach churning because you remember all the embarrassing mistakes you made during that conversation, I think it's super helpful for 2 reasons. 1, because you're reinforcing that experience of talking to a native speaker and you're reinforcing anything you might have learned. And 2, you're better equipping yourself to handle a similar topic next time it comes up in conversation. Tip number 4 is to look up words you need and back check your translations. Personally, I think you should build your own personal vocabulary because word lists alone won't teach you how to express yourself. This is a vocabulary tip for all levels. When a word in your native language springs into your head and you realize you don't know how to express it in your target language, fight the urge to brush over it. Don't be lazy, look it up. For me, building vocab that lasts in my memory comes out of necessity and not downloading word lists and trying to cram them into my head and all the words just start to jumble together after a while. If a situation arises and I find myself coming up blank for a word or a phrase, I immediately head to 3 places: HelloTalk, bing.com/dictionary, and Pleco. Additionally, I always use more than one resource to back check that the translation I found is the correct one for the context I want to use it in. Tip number 5 is all about actual speaking, voice note conversations. This is another exercise which is less daunting than Skyping a stranger, which is to practice communication through voice notes. I do this on HelloTalk. Voice notes give you the same opportunity to practice listening and speaking with native speakers without the pressure to comprehend and respond immediately. I'm also part of a WeChat group of foreigners at all levels that communicate almost solely through voice notes. It is so much fun to learn from each other, and we encourage each other to use what we know in order to communicate with each other, and this way we can find the gaps in our knowledge and also help each other out. It's a really good way to practice speaking without the pressure of a native speaker judging you and, you know, embarrassing yourself. Tip number 6 is to post voice recordings. Similar to voice note conversations, posting voice notes on the moments on HelloTalk and communicating through voice notes in the comments on HelloTalk is another great way to practice speaking. People can correct your pronunciations and give advice on word choice, etc. I personally avoid texting conversations because I feel like while texting can help maintain your current competency level, it doesn't really provide enough of immediate challenge to really activate your learning. Voice notes are just really the bee's knees, and for me have really changed the game of speaking practice. Okay, tip number 7 is probably one you've heard before. It's a bit traditional, and it's about meaningful language exchange through regular Skype or in person. Regular traditional language exchange will impact your speaking tremendously. For this, I once again recommend the app HelloTalk for finding a language partner. I think it's super convenient, super easy, it's free, fun. I Skype with my friend called Howland roughly once or twice a week, once in English and once in Chinese for roughly an hour. I also meet up with my friend Fang once a week. We met last year on HelloTalk, and since then we've been meeting every week to practice Chinese and English. She's so cool. She also actually studied in Korea for like 10 years and she can speak Korean, and she's so funny. We've grown really close, and I'm lucky enough to actually be invited to her wedding. So yeah, I really value the friendships I've made through language learning, and I encourage you to go out there and find your own language learning partner. Okay, my next tip is to actively watch Chinese series and movies and activate new vocabulary. So everyone knows that watching TV series and movies can help you get more comfortable with a new language, but the most important thing is not just to sit back, relax and watch passively. It's to actively engage with the media you're consuming. So I encourage you to, while you're watching, to write down new words you think might be useful, look them up, jot down example sentences using Pleco. Example sentences are really the key here. Example sentences give you templates. In other words, they allow you to get a feel of how the word can be used. Great advice that I acquired from the Fluent show is that, of course, acquiring new vocab is important, but more importantly, in order to improve your speaking, you need to activate your new vocab. Example sentences are just one method of trying to activate your new vocab, and you can read them out to yourself or post them on HelloTalk in a voice recording. And if you're wondering why I keep looking that way, it's because I just have some notes. I really took some time to think out clearly what I wanted to share with you and what I feel made the biggest impact on speaking Chinese for me, and I really hope that this can help you. So with that said, let's continue on to the last 3 tips. Now, TV series are good, but better yet, watch vlogs on YouTube or Bilibili where you can read the bullet comments that go along the screen. That can give you like a real-time vocabulary lesson on current Chinese internet slang, which is amazing. For Bilibili and YouTube, I really like to watch a girl called Eva GGP because her accent is really clear and she's just quite funny. She vlogs about her boyfriend and about fashion and what she does. I just really like watching her lifestyle, and she talks to the camera a lot, and yeah, her vlogs are really fun. There are also lives happening on Bilibili all the time, which really shows you how Chinese is used in real life by native speakers. And you can participate in the comment section, which is so much fun. I also really like to watch foreigners speaking Chinese on YouTube and Bilibili because sometimes I pick up on their mistakes and realize, hey, I do that too. I mean, it's hard to constantly monitor your own performance, but it's a lot easier to pay attention to somebody else's. And of course, I really feel an affinity with other language learners, and watching their progress really motivates me to work harder. A few of my favorites from YouTube include Lindy Buertes and Chloe Shortall, and from Bilibili there's this really cute girl, I can't remember her name, and that Spanish guy, I can't remember his name, but I'll leave links to their channels in the description. Okay, this is the home stretch. Tip number 10 is to watch movies in your native language but with Chinese subtitles. I love watching English movies with Chinese subtitles and writing down the translations in Chinese that I think are useful or interesting. Sometimes the way you translate something from English to Chinese can be like a direct translation and doesn't really reflect how they would express it in Chinese. So when you watch a movie in your language with the subtitles, you can kind of see what you want to express and how they would translate it. If you know what I mean. And that really stuck with me because I was hearing my native language and seeing how it should be expressed, and it just made the correlation so much stronger. So yeah, I found that really helpful. And also, you know, there's not so much pressure. It's not like you have to be constantly reading the subtitles. It's just when you hear something in English and you're like, I would love to know how to express it in Chinese, you can just look at the subtitles, take a screenshot, pause it, and write it down, make a note of it on your phone. And did you know that you can actually change your Netflix profile into Chinese? If you do this, all the movies, first of all, the titles will be displayed in Chinese usually, and also they will automatically display Chinese subtitles when you're watching the movies or series. And don't worry, this doesn't actually change your entire account. It's just your specific profile. For instance, my profile is in Chinese, my brother's profile is in English, and my boyfriend's profile is in Korean, and we all share one account. But our different profiles, we have selected our preferred languages. So yeah, I find this a really easy way to kind of increase my passive vocabulary and my instinct of how to express certain things in Chinese. Okay, wait. Some of these tips might sound like they're centered around improving your listening skills, but that's because it's more about improving your natural instincts for the language. I think native speaker input is imperative for you to learn how to output well. Otherwise, you'll be performing like a mental translation from your home language every time you try to kaiko and speak Chinese. Lots of input helps automate your output by giving you lots of resources in order to form everyday sentences, and in this way, eventually you'll be thinking in your target language. Tip number 11 is repeating back corrections. When a native speaker corrects you, don't just say 谢谢 and move on. Repeat the correction back to them. Do thank them and then make a note of it, either mentally or try and make a note of it on your cell phone that you can come back to later. I usually WhatsApp new sentences or words to my boyfriend because I know that although I might not look at some notebook again later, I know when I talk to him later on, I'll see it as the first thing that's going to pop up on my phone, and that acts as a sort of like mini spaced repetition in order to make me more familiar with new information. I hope this video showed you that you don't have to be super socially confident to improve your Chinese speaking. You don't have to do Skype calls with strangers every day. It just takes a lot of hard work and a little creativity.